This computer is from hell. Now, I don't have much of a right to complain about that because I got it for free, but from the beginning, this thing has done nothing but crash on me, and as it's gone on, as I've used it, it's gotten worse. I had to install Linux on here because Windows 10 was basically kicking the bucket. Now, I got this computer because the last one that I had was basically 2.5 feet in the grave, yet still running somehow. It wasn't gonna continue working long term. I had to put my videos at insanely small resolutions in order to just render them, and even then, it sometimes took a day or two on a good day. So, this computer is all I've got, and that's kind of sad. I do have a desktop computer, a Windows 7 desktop computer that I had gotten in Maine over there, but the problem is that I can't connect it to the internet until I get a wireless, like, USB converter that'll make it to where I can connect to internet sources. And so once I do that, I'm golden. I can download Sony Vegas on it, and I don't have to worry about crashing all the time. But that's going to take at least 10 days to do, and even when that happens, the internet that I have here is done via cell phone signal hotspot. So, I don't have a connection, you know? I don't have a LAN connection that can just be reliable that I can transmit to my computer, and I don't have a way to transmit it to my computer, to download an editor, to transfer files, to edit videos, to get videos done. And so, what I'm stuck with is the constant crashes that are from this computer. All the time. It's a computer from hell. That's all it is. It is a computer that has done nothing but make the path ahead desolate and barren, and it's taken a lot out of me. For the past week and a half, I've been dreaming the exact same dream, and in each of them, the outcome is always the same. Sometimes the elements are a little bit different, but usually they tend to play out the same way. And it is a dream in which I've miraculously found that my account was hacked, that my password was taken, and each time I seem to find myself looking for the Infinite Outlaw channel, and instead seeing it replaced by this weird, like, graffiti-ridden artifice that has a different name, that is just completely different. Same subscriber number every time, but the profile picture and the name are completely different, and I believe some of the titles were changed. But from this point on, I look at the account and I don't respond, I don't react. There's just no reaction from me at all when I see this. And so what I do instead is I put the phone down and I continue what I'm doing throughout the day until later on I find out that my account was deleted. And in this instance, I panic and I freak out and then I wake up. And the dream has continued to play out that way. My account gets stolen by somebody. It ends up having the name and stuff being changed. I neglect to take any action. And then the account is deleted and all of my videos and subscribers and everything else, comments, are deleted with it as well. And I always wake up from that, because I always panic as soon as that happens. There was a slightly different version of the dream, where, like, a big major company had striked a bunch of my videos, and then the channel was gone. I didn't have the time to appeal them, and it was gone. And this dream, this, like, even, like, when it's, you know, not... This thematic through line that is in all of these dreams is one that haunts me. Losing my YouTube channel, losing my audience, losing my outlet for creativity is something that literally wakes me up from nightmares. It freaks me the fuck out. Like, whenever these dreams happen, I usually wake up, like, in a haze, like, sometimes gasping for breath, like, sometimes I wake up from these dreams on the verge of a panic attack. This is not an exaggeration. This is not me saying this to sound dramatic or to sound interesting. This is literally what has been happening when I get these dreams. And I think about this, and I think about the greater context that these are in, and I feel like if I lost long-term contact with my YouTube channel, it would devastate me. Like, if this happened in real life, these are just dreams. If this happened in real life, I would be destroyed as a person, because this is my main creative outlet. This is what I use to keep me going. This is the thing that I prioritize the most. I have lost friends over this channel because I thought the channel was more important. The channel is gonna last longer than those friends are, and I've made decisions with my videos that most people would think an asshole would make. And I mean, that's fine. There are certain decisions I haven't made for friends, but whatever. In general, I've kept being myself because the channel, my relationship with the channel, my care for the channel supersedes the majority of things for me. There are certain things that I do care about more, certain precedents that I do take out of respect, but in general, what this channel means to me vastly outdoes almost everything else in the world. And that can be kind of worrying, because it could just disappear. A company could just flag everything, and it would all be gone. And I wouldn't have an audience that would listen to me anymore. And the amount of therapy, the amount of purpose, the amount of happiness, joy that I gained from making these videos in an instant would be deeply stifled. Now, I wouldn't be gone forever just because my subscribers were gone. I'd probably be bummed out for a little while, and then within the same day I would start up a new channel or a blog or something, and I would reside there, but nonetheless, my morale would be severely hit if that happened. And I believe this dream is emblematic of that paranoia of this happening and of the sheer reliance that I place on YouTube to give me a sense of happiness and security within life, because I legitimately feel that if I didn't have this, I would go insane. I would be much less happy as a person. I would feel terrible. Everyone needs a sense of purpose within their own life. Everyone needs a hobby. Everyone needs some kind of job that like feels like a hobby. They need something, they need something that they can come to and they can really seek comfort in and feel that it makes the life worth living. YouTube is like one of the only things that does that for me. It's the main thing that does that for me. And if it were gone, I would just tank as a person for a while. I would get back up from it, I think. I don't know. I would try to get back up from it, but I don't, like, I would still be able to make stuff, so I'd probably be able to get through it, but like, if I were just never able to make stuff or access the internet again, I would kill myself. That's not a joke. That's not like an exaggeration. If I had none of that, if I had no creative outlet, if I had no way to express myself, the depression would get so bad that I would just kill myself, because life wouldn't be worth living at that point. If I'm not allowed to, create and do cool stuff and express myself, then life isn't worth living. And this is the way that I express myself, is through YouTube. Now, granted, I'm trying to find other ways of doing that. I'm trying to gain other skills, but that takes a lot of time. And the process of getting a new skill has you being bad at it, and there's a lot of stuff that you have to get through in order to get good at it that kind of feels like shit. So it's like, this is my comfort zone that I love the most, and I feel the best about, and that, gives me a reason to wake up every morning. So I don't want to lose it, you know? And the idea of losing it is one that is deeply haunting for me. So these dreams have been something that I'm thinking a lot about. That once you get to that point where you have the same dream about losing your channel every single night for this long, it becomes a concern. You've probably seen this computer desktop a lot of times. The avatar I have on here, I believe, is the girl from Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, the Hikikomori NEET character. Either that or it's just a random Hiki girl who was drawn up. And then when you look at her room, she's got shit tons of boxes and foodstuffs and all these different things. And then you begin to see my folders. It's a mess of music, NES ROMs and things of that nature, images upon images and archives of videos, finished projects that haven't come to fruition, all kinds of different things. It's not organized, and you know what I think about organized chaos by now. If you don't, then go watch the video, because I believe it says a lot about how I think. But, individually speaking, this video, from the operating system to the way that that's managed, does say a lot about the identity of my channel. The only thing is that this is the only eye by which it can be conveyed through, because I've been moving from house to house to house to house, and that has not been well to cultivate a sense of identity within the things that I film. So I have to be creative, I have to use images, I have to use editing, which has been squandered by the lack of editing software on such a platform, but I've been powering through anyway. And I have to use my desktop. By recording on things like OBS and live streaming, etc., I have to project my voice in certain ways that convey something a bit different. But all of this simply doesn't compare to the fact that a man recording in his room with a microphone, with posters, with things set up in whatever way he wants to put it in, is a different feeling. You may be able to get a lot of mileage out of what you have, but you simply cannot create the same atmosphere that a person does when they record in a specific way. There are always going to be differences in how you do things, in what is felt through those differences in technique. And this would be fine if I was just an unlimited supply of ideas and of resources. But I'm not. Despite the name Infinite Outlaw, I am certainly not infinite in ideas that can be applied in the same way, in the same recording style. And so how does one mitigate this? Well, they record in other ways. They implement other techniques by which your ideas are expressed. The problem is that in the current environment that I'm in, I can't necessarily do that, because that environment instigates moving a bunch of different times in a bunch of different places. And that's a problem when you're trying to cultivate a sense of identity within one's videos, to cultivate a continuous narrative and atmosphere within those videos. Because when you don't put down roots, when you don't ground yourself to where you are, you never quite leave your footprint on what that place is or was. You never quite make a place home when you're jumping from home to home. And so, I know that in a few months I'm moving away from this place, so I can't quite get too comfy. But by the time that final place comes, in a few months, I know that I will have the means that I need to do the ideas that have been in the back of my head for so long. And so many of these ideas I've actually taken and done, despite the fact that I can't execute them the way that I want to. I've gotten a lot of videos out that I felt were fine as their own thing, but they didn't really reflect the vision that I had wanted them to, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, a video is a video. It's a product in isolation. You're never going to reflect the vision that you had in mind from the beginning. No artist does that 100%, but I know that I could at least reflect it a little bit better if I had the tools at my disposal that I wish to have, but the fact is that I can't attain those things for a while. And that does suck, but it puts me in a position creatively to where I have to figure out different solutions to express those ideas, or I have to find new ideas outright, which is a bit of a task, but if anything, my time on YouTube and the sheer quantity of my videos seems to show that I am resilient in the idea of finding new things to talk about, or at least finding new spins on the old things to talk about. So I don't believe that I'm in any sort of danger with this thing, other than the fact that the impending doom to the idea of my infinity may be coming. There is still, nonetheless, videos that will always come out. I'm called Infinite Outlaw for a reason, but I'm not infinite every single day outlaw. That's the distinction I'm making. I'm more like infinite every week outlaw when I run out of ideas. So, not completely living up to the name, but kind of living up to the name. That's what I'm getting to here. And that does worry me oftentimes, because, as you know, as I've said on many occasions, I view YouTube as like a medicine. It's like a thing that I do, that I inhale like my crack cocaine to make myself feel better, to give myself an outlet to express things, to distract myself when I'm feeling like shit. And I mean, I found other outlets recently and over time, but regardless, this is still my bread and butter. This is the thing that fuels the machine. And so I think about this, and I wonder the longevity of such a fuel, that if I keep mining away at the oil field, that eventually that oil that I've been striking, it's going to dry up. And I wonder when that's going to happen. And so that is the thing that's been on my mind, and it's going to continue to be on my mind in the coming months until I really set down roots at a place. And even when I do, the thing is that while a footprint is going to be left here that I'm going to have to pack up and then set to a new place, by the time I get to the new place, it's not like everything's going to be hunky-dory and I have everything exactly the way I want it to be. There's money that needs to be saved in order to really implement the kind of atmosphere that I think would represent what my channel means, or what I want it to mean, rather, what I truly want to express. And the process of doing that takes a long time. It takes a lot of saving up, because the kind of merchandise that I specifically dabble in and am obsessed with costs a lot of money. And when you're isolated, that's not particularly easy to come by. Obviously, disability exists, but that takes a while to apply for. So, I mean, I could be even looking at like a year before I can really say all the things that I want to say. So, you know, it's you better get those creative solutions going. At the very least, I do know how to make a place feel at least a little bit like home with the few things I have at my disposal, computer, desk, etc. The problem is that I bought a desk when I was at the old place. Then I subsequently had to leave it there, had to buy a new desk here, sent it to the wrong address, now I have to get it rerouted. So there's just things and things by the droves. This life is riddled with complications, because you move to all these different places And I would like to be able to have a place where I can say, I don't have to move anymore. I'd like to have a place where I can just say, alright, this is where we're going to exist. But until then, this is the complication I deal with. And I believe all of these moves has actually led me to escape reality more. I mean, when you're a NEET, when you're a Hiki, you're gonna be escaping out of reality because the fact that you're rebelling against the system, the fact that you're trying to be out of the world is because the world is shit and there's not much to do in your room other than escape that world. In fact, I would say that being a Hiki and staying in your room is basically the pinnacle of extreme escapism. Because what the fuck else are you gonna do? When you're inside of your room, you're isolated, you're out of everything, there's nothing to turn to here other than escapism. Video games, anime, waifus, porn, manga, books, whatever it is, you're not doing it IRL. If you weren't a Hiki who does everything via escapism, I would be shocked. Seriously. Because I know there are some Hikis who stare at their walls for a grand portion of time, but if you're not doing something to escape this hell that you presume the world is, then I don't really understand what led you to be a Hiki or like why you're here. I'm not saying like MMOs and all this stuff cause Hikidom. Maybe for some they do, but like the fact that you're here usually means you want to escape out of the world, and I feel like you would have to have an extreme amount of resilience not to just kill yourself if you're going to stay completely isolated with the only thing accompanying you being your thoughts. Because let me tell you, not only from my experience, but from the experience of many others, your thoughts can turn wild and nasty if you're isolated for a long enough period of time. And so it's not good. It's not good to not have something to escape to. And I do think that your room itself can say a lot of things. It can be nice. It can feel good. There's a wonderful Kurzgesagt video about the advent of beauty and how beauty plays an effect on us psychologically, why we like to see beautiful things. The fact is that aesthetics make us feel good. We like to see beautiful stuff. And what we define as being beautiful or as being aesthetic is largely dependent on who you are as a person, what your genetic makeup is, and what your upbringing is. And I am the type of person who, in the lottery, just so happened to be slammed with the ticket that says, I like trash. I like anime posters. And so I end up being here being like, okay, I'm gonna put shit tons of anime in my room. I'm gonna put shit tons of just consumer products, nothing but capitalism all over the place, everywhere. Love it. Love the designs. Love the product marketing. Love the waifu. Everything all over the place. Figures, manga, etc. Again and again and again. It's everywhere there. And that elicits the same feeling in me as a beautiful waterfall or a beautiful snowy mountain does in other people. Don't get me wrong, those things, I love them. But this type of room, the organized chaos aesthetic, as I've said many times, is one of my favorite things. It makes me feel joy, it makes me feel at home. So much so that when I'm in a room that does not represent those attributes, I actually feel marginally worse. And the same thing can be said, statistically, of people who live in a town that they find boring, dreary, or bad in whatever paradigm they defined that in. And the statistics just show it. As Kurzgesagt pointed out in his video, people who live within cities that they find to be aesthetically unappealing, they end up being more depressed as a result of that, just by the way humans work. And so when I'm in a room that isn't exactly reflective of my identity, that isn't exactly up to code with the outlaw aesthetic, I don't always take well to that. And so what do? I go into escapism because I can't just stare at my fucking walls all day because I get sad at the fact that the walls don't necessarily represent what I want them to. And that's okay. People move, they have these problems, they have money problems. This isn't me sitting here and saying that I hate the fact that I don't have these things. Sometimes people just don't have those things and they have to accept it. And I'm all for doing that. But I'm not all on the path to alleviating desires yet. We haven't reached that power level. The fact is that those desires exist because they're innate within humanity. And while I can take certain actions behind that, I can eventually get those things. I'm not whining and crying about it. Yes, the feelings exist, but I'm not sitting here screaming and doing all these other things. That's not the point of this. The point is to say that the feeling exists, and so here's how I deal with it. I have done exorbitantly more escapism. I've been watching nothing but like PewDiePie videos and Vice and John Oliver. I know it's for me, as someone who is anti-liberal cuck as I am, the words John Oliver and Vice uttering from my mouth must sound shocking, but I mean, I try to take from every perspective, and like, John's fucking funny. I love him. He's great. He's really good at making people laugh, and like, I agree with him on some things. I disagree with him on other things. I watch lots of right-wing people like Sargon, etc., because I want to see what their perspective is and I want to see it through. But regardless, I know these people are memes. I know Vice especially is a meme, but they produce some interesting content sometimes. Their website is really the cesspool. If you go to their website, it's nothing but like weird fear-mongering and clickbaity bullshit. Don't really go on the website. They have some, kind of mediocre documentaries that obscure and obfuscate the truth, but there are some of them that do really look at the facts and are really good and are generally well done. One of my favorite documentaries that I've seen from them is the Cannibal Warlords of Liberia, in which the Vice guys literally go into Liberia and talk to warlords, risking their own lives. It's incredible. It's a wonderful watch just to show what the world is. And oftentimes, when I want to escape from the abode that I currently reside in, what I do is I turn on one of these documentaries and I sit down and I really hone in on what they're saying. I just focus, because it's hard for me not to focus when there's so many different shots going on screen, when there's so much information to take in. I just watch and I listen, and being in the environment, being, feeling as if you are in the environment just by way of watching it, like, having constant jokes going with a John Oliver video, and like just laughing and learning things and being able to really immerse yourself into this thing, it distracts from the idea that, it's very plain. I can't really record all of the stuff that I want to record in here. I can't really just look over and feel at home where I am. But that's the process of transitioning to a new home. You have to get to the point where it eventually does feel like a home. That just takes time. And so, what I end up having to do as a person is just wait that out. Just escape into these other things that I enjoy until eventually I can get to the point in which I am satisfied with the abode that I reside in. It takes time. But until then, you just have to keep escaping into things. And that's fine. Like, that's what I've always been doing. What the fuck is that dog doing? They're, like, slamming into each other. That's incredible. But, like, yeah, like as a Hiki, you get kind of used to the idea of turning to fiction or non-fiction, just whatever it is that isn't in your life right now, you get kind of used to turning to those things to deal with whatever you're feeling. The fact that you're a hiki in the first place for most people is to get more of that escapism, to not have to deal with reality's bullshit. Like, you don't have to deal with work, you don't have to deal with school, you're just in your room dealing with basically nobody but yourself, because you have nobody to listen to, you have nobody to bow down to, unless someone is providing for you economically. But even then, sometimes you become so shut off that those people don't even have anything to attest to you. So you end up just being in like a bubble of your own where the world's bullshit is completely deflected, except when you sit down to really think about it. And even that can be mitigated by like self betterment and things like that. Like, you can, you can take control of your own thoughts if you're really good at it. So being a hiki in a way is like the ultimate, I know I've talked about this term Apollonian before, but it's true. It's like, getting away from all the emotional baggage and just kind of focusing in on your own shit. Like, just not doing anything in the real world and just escaping into whatever it is. And an escape from reality can be even something like carpentry. Like, yeah, you're teaching yourself a valuable skill that can be used, materially speaking, in the real world, but you're still not dealing with the bullshit of what reality is. You're still escaping. You're still immersing yourself into a thing. And I would describe that escapism as a sort of immersion into one thing. And that's what I've been doing to deal with this fucking house problem. I know the drill. I always know the drill when I'm sad. Immerse yourself into one thing. And usually that not necessarily fixes the problem, but it distracts from it. If you just keep distracting yourself with all these different things from the depression, then the depression can't settle in and control how you're feeling, because it's a dangerous road to go down. When you start feeling a certain way, if you've been feeling that way for long enough, like I have, I've been depressed for years, so I know exactly what the process is. I know that when I start feeling a little depressed, eventually it's going to start feeling like I'm in a black hole by the end of the week, because it just continues compounding and compounding and compounding onto itself. I am my biggest enemy. I know that. I know that as a depressed person, if I let myself think about what's going on, I am going to feel worse. So the solution, in that sense, is to not think. It's to fill your life with so much stimulation that eventually that stuff doesn't even cross your mind, because you have so many things crossing your mind via stimulation that you're not even that depressed. Or at least the depression is so numbed and in the background that you don't even think about it, which is the goal. That's the way I deal with it. And so whatever the case may be, I always end up escaping into these things, sometimes escaping into multiple things at once. I'll be doing like writing here, listening to a thing here, maybe listening to some music under it, maybe reading a chant. That's the point of having two monitors. It's so you can multitask. Why the fuck do you multitask? It's to get away from your own thoughts, So it does its job. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I slip and I let the emotions come in, but most of the time I'm not too bad about it.